Last week, we reported that U.S.-backed terrorists had shot down a Russian fighter jet in Syria with a shoulder-fired missile, eerily reminiscent of Senator John McCain's statements of how the U.S. should start arming these groups in Syria to start shooting down Russian planes. Well, let's briefly hear from Lieutenant General Paul Frank, who is the highest-ranking U.S. military officer in Syria.
I would say that the people that fought to take Raqqa back from ISIS, no matter what nationality they were, no matter what their beliefs, were heroes.
But Turkey says some of them are terrorists.
Well, okay.
But that's the complexity of where we are right now.
That's exactly right.
What's your biggest worry about what's going on here?
Miscalculation.
Whose?
Could be anybody's.
And if these two sides end up in open conflict, what do you do about that?
We de-escalate.
Instead of de-escalation, there have been major escalations in Syria that continue to unfold. Just hours ago, U.S.-backed Kurdish forces shot down a Turkish military helicopter in Syria, killing 2 on board. While just days ago, U.S.-led airstrikes killed dozens of pro-Assad fighters in Syria, including Russian military contractors, while many reports say the death toll exceeded 100. According to reports, 2 units of Russian contractors known as the Wagner Private Military Group were wiped out in the airstrikes. The U.S. issued a statement that the airstrikes were carried out in self-defense, repelling an attack by pro-Syrian government forces against the U.S.-backed forces who operate under the direct oversight of U.S. Special Forces, who are embedded with the so-called rebels. But there appears to be much more to this story, as both sides claim the opposing side is trying to secure oil fields in the area. In a letter addressed to UN Secretary General, Syria's foreign ministry said the attack, quote, represents a war crime and a crime against humanity, end quote. It also accused the United States of using the, quote, excuse of fighting terrorism to set up illegitimate bases on Syrian territory. The incident again showed that the U.S. is maintaining its illegal presence in Syria, not to fight the Islamic State, but to seize and hold Syrian economic assets, the ministry claimed. And just hours ago, another major escalation as Israel conducted a series of airstrikes near Damascus on 12 separate military targets. The targets include both Syrian and Iranian military installations in the heart of Syria. The airstrikes occurred after an Iranian drone was shot down by Israel in the disputed Golan Heights area, to which Israel responded by attacking the Iranian base in Syria the drone was operated from. Syria then launched anti-aircraft defense measures during the attack by Israel and successfully shot down 1 Israeli F-16. And that is when Israel launched the much larger attack previously mentioned, hitting the 12 separate military targets. The Russian Foreign Ministry has called on the global community to respect Syria's sovereignty. The ministry also noted that the creation of threats in Syria, where the Russian military is present, is unacceptable. The U.S. has stated their ally Israel has every right to defend itself, essentially endorsing the Israeli attacks on Syria.
This morning, Iran brazenly violated Israel's sovereignty. They dispatched an Iranian drone from Syrian territory into Israel, and this demonstrates that our warnings were 100% correct. Israel holds Iran and its Syrian host responsible for today's aggression. We will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect our sovereignty and our security.
Remember, the Golan Heights is part of Syria that Israel has illegally occupied since the Six-Day War of 1967. And for more information about Israel's real agenda in the Golan Heights, I highly recommend everyone read Newsbud's exclusive article written by William Engdahl as he exposes the deep state players and their interests in this region by name. According to Max Blumenthal, many people in Israel believe this most recent attack against Syria by Israel is a plot to distract the people in Israel away from the possible indictment of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on corruption charges.
We also have to keep in mind the domestic circumstances. Netanyahu is facing police recommendations for his own indictment for corruption charges. There are going to be massive protests against Netanyahu tonight in Tel Aviv, and many of those protesters are insisting, somewhat conspiratorially, that Netanyahu is seeking an escalation to distract from his own corruption problems and domestic plight.
Now stay tuned for more coverage as Newsbud will continue to monitor the ongoing conflict in Syria as well as several other topics. Now let's take a quick look at what Newsbud subscribers got just in the last week for their monthly subscription. Our Russia expert exposes the blacked out story of a failed covert NATO operation. our China expert breaks down how the U.S. war planners are looking to take things to the next level in Asia in an explosive way. Our financial expert covers the Rothschild and Rockefeller operations in China, and Kurt Nimmo documents the current war being waged against the alternative media by the establishment. But first, this week we had an exclusive breaking report that has been and is being blacked out by the media. The report from Newsbud founder and editor Sibel Edmonds exposes a rogue element within the CIA and the State Department sabotaging White House foreign relations, preventing the release of an American pastor from a Turkish jail. The report is in article and video format and includes statements from multiple high-level insiders who go on record. Find out how and why these rogue elements within the CIA and the State Department are doing everything that they can to sabotage a White House directive, going against the president's orders in a violation of an American's human rights. The full report is available right now, open to all, exclusively at newsbud.com. Now, Newsbud is only funded through your donations and subscriptions, and we really do count on your support to make what we do here possible. A monthly subscription costs practically nothing and will provide you with full access to all of the amazing content by our distinguished team of experts produced on a daily basis. This week, Newsbud released an explosive interview that was previously only available for our members. Right now, you can go to Newsbud's YouTube channel and see Sibel Edmonds' interview with investigative journalist Whitney Webb as they discuss Webb's recent series of articles exposing the shady connections between the Intercept's founder, Pierre Omidyar, and the U.S. intelligence agencies like the CIA and the NSA. Newsbud made this video open to all due to many requests from the public and from our members. It is an eye-opening report that will help you to fully understand who the gatekeepers are and how the media has partnered with the U.S. government to intercept and censor whistleblowers who reveal the darkest secrets of the establishment. Now, we do not release full videos too often because we are a subscription-based site and we are funded only through your subscriptions and donations. So make sure you all take this opportunity to see the full 1-hour report, and don't forget to sign up today at newsbud.com. This week on Money and Fear, Newsbud's financial expert Pi Ian covers the latest on the covert financial wars between the U.S. and China, while providing an alternate view that you will not see reported by the establishment-controlled media. Pi Ian also breaks down how the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers have been operating in China for the last century, while enjoying a long and mutually beneficial relationship.
The Rockefeller-China story is America's China story. The first three John D. Rockefellers were engaged with China from the time of the American Civil War. The late David Rockefeller, who was responsible for merging his Chase Manhattan with J.P. Morgan Bank, and who ardently pushed for systematically interlocking trade and political relations between the West and China for decades, presciently discussed China's sense of collective discipline, acute achievements, and future potential. His wasn't merely academic observations, but tactical and strategic ones.
Pi Ian shows just keep getting better and better, and Money and Fear is quickly becoming one of our most popular shows. This is a jam-packed 40-minute episode that you do not want to miss, and it's available right now for members at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo On Demand. This week on Newsbud's Geopolitical Report with Kurt Nimmo, Nimmo documents the current war being waged against the alternative media. The end game of this war is the elimination of any site that offers anything but the official narrative pushed by the government and echoed by the corporate media. Nimmo uncovers the tactics and the high-level players responsible for this operation, by name. As Nimmo puts it, this is a full frontal assault by the ruling elite to gain control of the narrative and marginalize, if not eradicate, opposition to its agenda. And you can bet that Newsbud is in the crosshairs. That's why we need you to support our organization, and the best way to do that is by becoming a member today. It costs practically nothing, and you get 100% access to all of our original content 24/7. Nimmo's full video is titled The Murder of the Alternative Media, and it's exclusively available for members at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo On Demand. This week, one of Newsbud's military veterans put together a series of reports documenting the U.S. military complex and their close partnership with private corporations that make vast sums of money from the weapons of war. There are 14 separate reports on 14 little-known but major players in the war industry. We are continuing to see the privatization of everything, including war, as killing for state purposes is now in the corporate hands. The exclusive report is open to all at newsbud.com. On Newsbud's Russian newspaper monitor, Professor Kovacevic deconstructs the headlines every week in the Russian newspapers while providing expert analysis. This week's episode, Professor Kovacevic exposes a failed operation carried out by covert NATO operatives in an attempt to sabotage an election and Russia's relationship with a key country in the region. Professor Kovacevic also deconstructs the recent Kremlin report released by the U.S. government exposing Russian oligarchs, why they did it, and what it means. Plus, Newsbud's Russian newspaper monitor breaks down the hot spots to keep an eye on for the ongoing covert operations between Russia and the West.
It appears almost certain that another Eastern European proxy war is around the corner.
This is must-see news and analysis, and you will not find it anywhere but newsbud.com. So be sure to become a member today. If you want to preview our work, visit us at Newsbud Vimeo On Demand. This week on Newsbud's China Watch, Peter Lee covers some very important and underreported news while providing expert analysis as he breaks down how the U.S. war planners are strategizing to make up for the lack of conventional military strength in Asia against China and its allies. And yes, it involves nuclear weapons, but on a smaller scale. Well, what could go wrong, right? Plus, Newsbud's China Watch confirms a major foreign influence scandal, and I'll give you a hint. It's not the Russians. Find out all this and more exclusively at newsbud.com.
The Chinese do not want to fight a nuclear war. This makes the Pentagon sad because the Pentagon wants to use nukes against China really, really badly. The reason is simple. The U.S. has relied on conventional military dominance over the People's Republic of China in a regional war, but that dominance is eroding. Nukes would make up the difference. According to the first Department of Defense report on Chinese military power,
non-members can watch this and all of Newsbud's exclusive videos at Newsbud Vimeo On Demand. This week, Kurt Nimmo wrote an exclusive article for Newsbud documenting the long history of the FBI being used as a political tool to target those who dare speak out in defiance against the establishment. A history going back 100 years. Well, as Nimmo points out in his video this week, a major perceived threat is currently the alternative media. Nimmo documents not only the long history of abuses by the FBI, but how the FBI has now established a task force to target the alternative media, with the ultimate goal of shutting down anyone who questions government propaganda that is being reported as fact by the corporate press. This is a must-read article that everyone needs to see right now, and it's exclusively available for members at newsbud.com. Newsbud also offers our own aggregated news, and we call it Sibel's Picks. It's the best source for aggregated news online. Newsbud's founder, Sibel Edmonds, handpicks each story herself, and you get about 90 links a week of the most important and blacked out stories. If you're not a Newsbud member yet, why not join today and give us a shot? There is no contract or obligation, and it costs practically nothing. And your subscription allows this independent news organization to continue to operate. And it also provides you with unlimited access to all of the exclusive content we produce here each and every week, including all the videos, articles, the interviews, the roundtables, and much more. You will not be disappointed. For all of us here at Newsbud, thank you for your support and stay tuned for next week's lineup.